My name is, again, Peggy Mott. I'm the president of Shady Oaks Condo Association. I welcome you all here. The first agenda of business is please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First of all, a little commercial. We do have a bake sale going on, so please, it's over here to my left. Now I'd like to introduce Barrett Thiel, Shady Oaks resident, Matt, and let you and Diane. Diane is a citizen off of West Front Street. Thank you. And as I have said many times before at our club meetings, please turn your phones off or put them on mute. As each person speaks or has a question, let the person finish their question or let them finish their response. Thank you.
Everyone should have received one of these statements of non-partisanship, which we would like everyone to have. And I'm going to ask Diane to switch to the microphone. If you don't have it, we can get it. Sarah. Yes.
We can't.
Sorry. Oh, really? Okay. What about my throat?
You're the mic loud.
Well, talk louder. Okay. Is this better? Well, I can handle this better. All right. We're going to ask Diane to read this document aloud, so that you can read it along silently while she does so, and I will hand her the microphone.
As most residents know by
Can't hear you.
Hold it closer to your mouth.
testing. Thank you so much. Closer. As most residents know by now, the Middletown Township Committee has applied for a matching funds grant for Monmouth County to build 9 playing fields and parking for 345 cars, a concession stand on Stevenson Park land with 65 feet, within 65 feet of the Shady Oaks property line. We learned of this plan only days ago when residents were alarmed by the noise, traffic, and disruption of the sports complex would wreak on our community. An ad hoc committee was formed to oppose it. The ad hoc committee has been working as quickly as possible to build a coalition in opposition to the Township Committee's proposed sports complex. We have been impressed by the rapid, growing, and firm support we've received from nearby property owners, Shady Oaks, Shadow Lake, and Lincoln Village residents, who would be greatly impacted by a sports complex built in a park deeded to Middletown, with the understanding that the property would remain in a natural state available only for passive recreation. A deed restriction that would prohibit organized sports. The Township Committee has complained that their sports complex plan has been politicized by candidates running in the coming November election, and that candidates opposed to the sports complex have been spreading misinformation and untrue details. The ad hoc committee has sorted through all the rhetoric and determined that what is true and correct. And we have been making the issues as clear as possible to our residents and friends. The sports complex problem we face can be solved by political means, but the ad hoc committee, the boards of directors of Shady Oaks and Shadow Lake need to make it abundantly clear that we do not endorse or support any candidate for public office except in our capacity as individuals. We are non-partisan, but we do offer our residents and friends the following verified information in order to help them make an informed decision as to which candidate they will choose to represent them. So we have on record that for the sports complex, current candidates for the Township Committee who have voted in favor of the sports complex include Tony Perry, Rick Cavell, and Pat Snow. Now, against the sports complex we have on record candidates running in opposition to the township committee include Tricia McGuire, Danielle Walsh, and Sean Rivers. That's what we have on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.
I do want to add to that list of things there. The people who live on, I think that it's known as Shadow Brook, those people are also involved with this. We have found a terrific number of people. You can't hear back there?
No, I'm saying I'm one of those people, so.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you so much. Well, I didn't plan to do this, but let's just try. Let's just look around. How many of you are Shady Oaks residents? Okay. How many of you are Shadow Lake residents? Oh, okay. Maybe the fire up Shadow Lake. How many? And obviously we have people from Shadow Brook. Did anybody else live here?
It's not.
Okay,
So
Lynn
I'll take the message back. We have a Facebook page about this, so.
Good for you.
We're all mad.
I know you are. One of your people is helping us out. An attorney who lives on Tom Lake who has been very helpful to us. We also have the Lynn Village Green Association who is working with us. They haven't given us all of their credentials yet, but they're very sympathetic to what's going on here. So we have an enormous group. We've been pretty successful so far at putting pressure on the township itself. So we're going to get into more of that as we explain the situation as it now exists and what we're hoping will come out of the next several days and weeks. We did have an action plan, which some of you have received, probably you haven't. We can get you one, but you have to let us know that you need it. I'm going to sit down for this because I get tired standing real quick. I want to reiterate, and I'm just going to go through the issues as we see them right now. This is not a political issue. This is a quality of life issue. Our concerns are noise, property values, traffic, and further damage to Shadow Lake, Nut Swamp Creek, the Mattasank River, and the legacy of Stevenson Park. Now, there are three things that would stand in the way of the township being able to achieve their goal of putting an amusement park right next to us. The first is political. We're honest about saying, yes, those names you have there are people who have gone in favor of it and people who are against it. Whoever you choose is your business, and we're not telling you who you should vote for. But the obvious thing is, if the opposing group wins the election, that will stop this project. If they don't, we have to move on to new things. The next one would be procedural or approval from government agencies, where there are certain places where they have to go for approvals in order to get this project through. One of them, which we mentioned, but we haven't mentioned yet, we did talk earlier. I've been talking to everybody. I'm losing track of who I'm talking to. But the point is that the deed restriction to Stevenson Park simply says that they have to use it for passive recreation, which does not allow for organized sports and fields being built and so forth. However, in that deed there is an escape clause, and that is that you go before the Department of Environmental Protection and that is known as a diversion, which allows them to change the term from passive to active. If they get that, that will allow them to proceed with this plan. From what we understand, the Department of Environmental Protection is likely to grant that request. It is not unlikely that they will turn it down. The last of the things that we could possibly do, if this doesn't stop, and there's things on this too that we'll talk about tomorrow, is litigation. It's expensive. We are looking at people who could represent us. I'm not sure. I'm going to ask Matt this question. There were other parts of town that fought similar projects like this one, and the township backed down. Did they have attorneys? They did have attorneys. Okay, so
attorneys and experts.
And experts. Okay. Well, that's the route that we may have to go eventually because we have very little choice here. It's either an amusement park next door or nothing. Or we have to move away if that's what we want to do. And I've heard people say that to me, and I very much feel that too. I love it here. I don't want to move. I mean, one of the greatest pleasures I have in life is looking out my bedroom window and seeing that little hedgehog out there that I have named Humphrey because I see him. decided these animals that run through here are our neighbors too. And if they do that, they will also lose their homes. So I know that somebody spoke very much of that. Where are you today? There was some person who spoke. Herb spoke. Thank you. Herb spoke about that the other day when we went to the freeholders meeting. Okay. I want to keep going here. I can talk to you for years about it. The proposal for this was rushed through with no notice to residents whose property abuts the park. We didn't know about this until after the grant application had been voted on September 4th. And we noted after we found out that they had very strategically placed that agenda item in such a way that almost no one would notice it. Then on September 17th, after we learned about this, a crowd appeared at the meeting of the Township Council meeting. They found out, hey, there are people out there that don't like it. In fact, we were outraged by it. People spoke. I know a number of people here. I can see their faces, though. I know you spoke. Tony Fiore at that time said, oh, this is just a concept. It's never going to happen. Well, technically, he's right about the idea of concept. That is the correct term to use for what they're putting there. But he used it in such a way as to indicate, well, it's probably just we're just making a cloud here. It's really not going to happen. Well, nonsense. They're working on part. Mr. Mercantani told us the Township Committee had tried to build fields in other locations in the little town, but area residents had rejected the plan. And at the same time, he said at that meeting, we're not hearing any solutions from you people. Anybody here heard that? Remember that phrase? Remember that. He did say that. So the question I have is, okay, you want some solutions? Build it at Fort Monmouth. That's an ideal location for it. And you can quote me. Please quote me. All right? In addition to what we know so far, the Township Committee did not consult with the Township Environmental Committee or the Open Space Committee prior to applying for grant funding for the first two fields. They didn't do their due diligence on this matter. At this point, having gone to the several meetings, the Township Committee is very much aware of what we're doing and how we're mobilizing against their proposal. They're getting feedback that has them worried. And they know it's an election. And that's probably one reason. So suddenly they are finding other solutions, or they're telling, oh no, we can find some fields. When we were at the freeholders meeting yesterday, Mr. Scharfenberger, who was at one time apparently the mayor of that town before my time, actually not, he was only a year or so ago. He told us, well, you know, you folks have been misled and lied to, and all these people who are running against this plan are telling you things that just aren't true. Well, I tell you, we track them all down, and that's not the case. You're getting true information, and everything we'll tell you is accurate and correct. And we'll show you where we got it if you need to know. So he said that the Board of Education has found a solution with the Township Committee. Well, okay, so we talked to the Board of Education. They haven't heard about that. They know it's been mentioned, but there's been no agreement. And we're warning everyone not to take anything you hear at face value. We're checking it all. If they tell you something like that, say, okay, if you have, show me where they have it. Show me the documentation on it. Where can I look this up? There was at the same time, that meeting, by the way, took place on October 10th at the freeholders, Hall of Records area. At the day before, October 9th, there was a meeting scheduled between the Township Committee and the Board of Education Shared Services Committee. That's the committee that would help the Township Committee find places and improve their use for township things. It's interesting to me that that was set up on the 9th. And on the 9th at noon, they canceled it because they said they were too busy with other meetings. And you should also know the Township Committee sets the agenda and limits the discussion. That's a comment we got directly from the Board of Education. I think we have to add a couple things here. I'm going to read from appeared on September 17th at Chris Rotolo in the Two River Times. According to Mr. Mercantante, who was talking about this Stevenson traffic, he said, this is one of the last places we can go where you can put a meaningful group of fields together to address the significant demand we have for fields. We don't talk about that. There just isn't a lot of space left to create fields. Most parks are developed, and a lot of the undeveloped green space and undeveloped portions of parks are sensitive areas with wetlands and constrained environmentally. Well now, let me give you another one. This one from the Board of Education. The township, if the township put resources into fields on both sides of the town and worked with the DOE, we could more than accommodate soccer, baseball, lacrosse, etc. without destroying Stevenson Park. And if after evaluating this, which by the way hasn't been done in any official capacity, there is still a need, we have other options. The Board of Education and the Township Committee each own several properties that make more sense. So much for the Township Committee to say. Let's go on to one of the big issues that pertains to this whole thing. West Front Street is the only way into and out of the park, and that involves traveling over a one-lane bridge. They keep telling us, oh no, you get two trucks in there, well, I know, that could happen. And I made remarks at a meeting we held here originally. I wasn't on the committee to do anything at the time, and I said at that time, it would be nice if we had a spontaneous desire to visit the park, and we had a lot of cars going on. In retrospect, I guess that wasn't such a good idea. And I can just imagine what would be on the news. The last of the visitors trapped at Stevenson Park, where they lifted out. Or survivors talk about subsisting of rainwater and roadside barrels, things like that. It's just not possible to put a volume of traffic into that park that they are contemplating doing. And they know it. And as yet they have made no study to authenticate that so they know in fact in record, in words they can't deny, that can't be done. So, emergency vehicles traveling on West Front Street will encounter this traffic. It's set up there, and with the delay response team. Let me just go over some numbers so you can help me if I can get them along here. We were talking at a meeting yesterday evening where we discussed some of the issues here. We thought, how many people are going to be involved with this? If you figure there are 40 players on the field, 3 coaches and 1 referee, and spectators, and we figured about 19 spectators, something like that. That's 60 people per field. Times 9 fields is 540 people. And if they do 4 of those during the day, that's 2,160. And if you think about Stevenson Park, it's a bottleneck. I remember that old ad on television, one Roach Motel, they get into the motel. Not that we are roaches, please don't. So the township will inevitably be forced to find another way into and out of the park. And I think Matt's going to talk a little bit about that. But quite frankly, that's why people on the Dome area, the Shadow Brook area, are concerned. That number of cars could be going, that number of people could be passing past their homes. In fact, the attorney we're talking to says this escape road that comes out of Stevenson Park would have to go past the back of his house and then turn around and come across the front. And if we lived there, we'd be going crazy as he is. He's just as worried about this as we are. So, Shady Oaks had given a temporary right-of-way easement to get that traffic in and out of Stevenson Park when they were servicing Mr. Stevenson when he was still living there. If they had to get an emergency vehicle in there, they said, okay, fine. You can cross our property to get there. And as of today, and they're supposed to get rid of it, right? They're supposed to do that. They have not done so, and anybody who walks up there can see that. It has been, they haven't honored that commitment to us. This whole business about not being totally honest with us pervades this entire project. And we're seeing it every time we go on the scene. So let me just finish with this before I ask Matt to pick it up with all the details that I don't know about, but he definitely does. No matter what they say, until we have seen a signed memorandum of agreement with the Board of Education showing, yes, they're going to build fields to accommodate all these sports they need to play, and that's signed, and we've seen it, until they have rescinded or amended the grant application to remove Stevenson Park, and amended the deed to dedicate Stevenson Park to permanent passive use. We have to continue to oppose this measure. We're not opposed to a solution. If they really do that, and I told them that at the meeting of the freeholders to Mr. Schoenberger, if they really do that, we're happy with it. As long as they stop this project, we'll be happy. And they are trying to do it, basically trying to mislead people to think, well, maybe you should vote a different way because we're going to help you out. Well, we know who's on our side, we know who isn't. So it's up to you to decide how you'll have the political side. We're going forward with the rest of it, and then I'm going to ask Matt to introduce himself and talk a little about it. He asked me to introduce him only as a concerned resident.
No, that's okay. I don't want anybody to become confused about our participation in all this. So, my name is Matt Morrow. I am a town resident, although I don't live here. I live over by Town Hall. All of you have much more to learn about based on what this conceptual plan looks like. I'm concerned because I regularly use Stevenson Park. I don't particularly like the way the conceptual plan was put together. In my opinion, if it was truly a conceptual plan, it would have had much more input and there would have been no reason to go for a grant application at this time. That grant application is geared to bring in money and forward the first phase of this as quickly as possible. And there's no other reason for it. Whether it goes to the actual non-field is another discussion, but that's the first issue with the entire proposal. I am on the Open Space Preservation Committee, so I can actually say we did not agree to this. I was at both the meetings on the 4th and the 17th. When I was at the meeting on the 4th, we happened to have a meeting the following week, and we weren't too happy about the fact that they had this concept plan and went forward with the application without any discussion at all. And we had asked that, we thought they should have tabled this issue, had further meetings about it, especially with the local residents, and get a better idea of what would have been accepted. We know now that there are other viable options out there that they have not explored. There's never been a study of all the fields, both on the DOE side and the township side, for what can be done. A project like this is the last resort. This isn't your first step. This is your last step, and you have nowhere else to go. So, I'm going to get up and just point to a couple of things that are out there for you. Actually, move this forward. Okay, so, for those who haven't seen it, this is the conceptual plan. Bottom of the figure is towards West Front Street, Shadow Oak, Shadow Lake, and the rest of the park bottom. As part of the first phase, you can also see it on the figure over there. There is a blue line you can get up and look at later. Everything from here to the south is part of the first phase. 2 fields, roughly 50 or so parking spaces for general use, and then the first set of parking spaces that would be needed for phase 1. As there's been a lot of discussion about, there is only one way in. Initially, they were trying to present that the bridge is 2-way, to fit 2 vehicles at once. From personally measuring it, I noted at its thinnest point, it's less than 16 feet. So there's no way that's actually going to happen. There is no other way in and out. In their proposal, they've actually stated it would be a 100-foot buffer between these two. So I invite anybody to go walk the gravel road that's out there now. You will plainly see this does not meet the definition of a buffer. A buffer attenuates noise, visual activity, reduces those things. This is a sparse set of trees. with invasive vines that are there maybe a couple of months if you're lucky. But once the fall comes, winter, early spring, you see right through that. And even now, you can see multiple units right from the gravel roadway, let alone being right on top on the other side of the fields. So, as a concept, it's poorly drawn out. Let's talk about, just the physical state of the park. They've tried to claim that, they're just taking back over farmland. The farms haven't been in operation for years. Nature's completely reclaimed these areas. This has multiple ecosystems going on. It's got grasslands, it's got trees, waterways, wetlands. To introduce the number of people they're looking at would destroy anything that's in here. As you look forward to multiple phases being an option, 9 fields, 345 parking spaces. We're not sure whether or not they're going to have any type of concessions yet. This is an interesting space up here. Nothing's been proposed yet. I know if I was looking at the concept, I would use this for storage. If they're going to have multi-sports on these fields, they are not going to lug goalposts and everything else in and out of this location. I would use that for storage, so look for even more intrusive activity towards the north of the property. Again, they continue to say it's conceptual, but it's too far along to be considered conceptual. The county doesn't take lightly the fact that you're submitting a grant application, looking for money, and then you're just going to dump it back on. They have multiple municipalities applying for grants. Very competitive. Middletown is pretty successful in getting them each year. So there's no doubt that with that application in, unless there's a lot of opposition, they'll likely see grant money from the county. And once that's in place, it just becomes another selling point for moving that first phase forward. They're not going to want to waste that grant. They're going to do everything they can to at least get in phase 1. And if you start with phase 1 and they don't put an agreement in place that they won't do anything else, it's off to the races for the rest of the fields. And honestly, if you were going to do a phase 1 and you were truly only looking at 2 fields, the proper place is centralized. Somewhere that's equal from all the surrounding areas. You don't put it here and then say, well, we're really not going to build anything else down the road. It doesn't make too much sense. Those are the on-site conditions. If we move to some of the other concerns, I'll choose this one. Park areas up here. This is just a general area, taking everyone from the parkway along West Front Street all the way down to where you cross over into Middletown, into Red Bank, off of Route 35. The numbers that Barrett discussed, if they did maximize everything out, you are doing a complete dump onto West Front Street. Down the road, there's no guarantee that they don't also open up access to the northern portion to exit that extra volume. I understand it's all conceptual, but you need to look at everything as part of the worst case scenario if you're going to look at this concept. And we all know West Front Street has all its own traffic concerns, speed, blind spots, the fact that you have rail lines both ends of West Front Street. And if you have a game emptying out, a train is pulling in on either side for stoppage, this entire thing backs up. Not to mention turnarounds for missing the park and every other scenario that goes with it. An interesting thing people don't seem to be thinking about either is, if you light this park up with activity, cars, people, everyone else, there's a major deer population. They settle in every night. Morning comes or evening comes, you start putting in all the noise, everything else. The deer aren't going to walk around to go into the forest. They go to the closest exit. So they're coming into the developments. They're going out towards West Front Street. There's not a lot of thought on the ecological impacts that are going on. That's why they're not required to go before the Environmental Commission. They're not required to go before the Open Space Preservation. But if it was truly a concept, you would have thought they would have had a little more input before they moved it as far as they have. Is there anything else you guys want to do?
I can't think of it.
Well, you know what, you want to go to questions
We have questions yet.
questions
We
and
want to,
answers?
well, actually, we do want to do questions and answers. So let's take this out. Does anybody have some questions?
Before I bring it out, I did want to bring up, you guys keep saying there's only one access way out, there's two. I'll roll back here.
Well,
We mentioned that.
that's an emergency roadway,
Right.
and that's why I mentioned it.
Which
There's
is-
no guarantee down the road they don't make it accessible. It's township control. There's nothing restrictive.
Whole office manager. Yeah, after the Stevensons moved out, they were gonna restore the road. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, and make it back the way it was. Well, we called them and said, when are you gonna start the restoration? And they said, soon, we don't have a date, but we're thinking about just getting rid of the gravel and putting grass seed down, cover it up. And I asked her to ask him why. You know, why don't we just close it up? He said, well, you never know down the future we might need emergency vehicles coming down. So just keep that in mind. Okay.
Yeah, any questions you can take out?
I have two questions. One, would it be helpful to get the Sierra Club involved since this is property that should be protected? That's number one. And number two, going to the newspaper, getting our story in the press, because that would help.
I'll just speak as well as I can. Yes, we've done that. We've asked both the Sierra Club, we're in touch with them. And as to get a newspaper, I've asked News 12 to get it to us. And I've asked for Russ Zimmer at the Asbury Park to help us out. So, yes, we're exploring that. Other questions? This gentleman has right.
What politician, businessman, or corporation has financial gain involved in this program? Because this would not have gone this far unless there's someone who's going to make money, and a lot of it. And this would be just the beginning. You have an answer for that?
We didn't plant him in the audience either, did we, sir? Yeah, whenever you have a single party running the government for a long period of time, there is an opportunity for corruption. We haven't identified who that person is at the moment, but let me explain this to you. The people who would have to run this park, if they put 9 fields in there and organize things and have people coming in and out and selling refreshments and all that, obviously they're going to have someone run that. The people who will build this structure are going to make money. And the people who the township committee already know are probably the people who are beneficiaries of a project like this. Now, we don't know for certain that anybody's getting money under the table for it. We're not suggesting that. But there's no question that somebody's going to make some money out of it. I mean, it's just natural to think that.
Can you hear us on this mic?
No.
Well, we'll use this one.
Is there any way to find out, either by tax records or any kind of proposal for their attorneys? And the attorney that represents Shady Oaks, is that person going to be involved in stopping this?
Yes. If we get to that stage. The question was, is there a way to find out who's benefiting by this? Maybe the FBI came into it. The fact is that We can only go so far in the investigation. We have investigated. We looked into a lot of things. Whether or not there's someone receiving money sub rosa, we don't know. But the fact is, the suspicion is always there. I mean, I had an uncle when I was a kid who didn't agree with my dad on politics at all. He once told my dad in an argument they were having with somebody running for something, well, I'm voting for the other guy because I want to have some balance on that committee. Well, okay. The fact is we don't have any balance in Middletown. It's all one party. So in that sense, you happen to know that that's the case. There is going to be corruption. I'm just saying that as a person. I'm just not representing the board or anybody else when I say that. That's me. That's my own opinion. But I think I've been around a lot long enough to know. There again?
Florence.
Florence had a question. Okay. Well, you're everybody.
I just have a comment. Currently, our schools have a lot of room for kids to play in. So who are these fields going to be for? It's going to be for leagues. Leagues charge parents to have their kids in there, charge for the uniforms, they have to pay coaches, they have to pay referees. So why is taxpayer money being used to build fields for a private business? Why are we paying for this? Who's answering these questions?
Yeah, let me respond.
Coaches don't get paid.
Yeah, there are plenty of volunteers, but someone is paid for that. And the answer to that is, when these leagues are involved here, they will pay a fee. Every time the township permits a field, they get a fee for it. It's not free to use those fields if you don't belong to it. The Board of Education, they don't charge fees to the kids in town when they play games. On the other hand, if a Board of Education field is used by a township group of some kind, a fee is paid to the township. They charge people for using it. And there's an abuse there, obviously. The thing I mentioned earlier, putting this whole project into Fort Monmouth would be ideal. Because it has everything they need. And if they're going to have money involved, make it a big enterprise, get the leagues together, do it the right way. Get together with other towns around us, combine your resources and build a sports complex. Put in swimming pools, do everything you want. Just don't charge us for it.
I hope that each person who lives in Shady Oaks and received a flyer, email or snail mail, the freeholders and the contact, Paul Fleets, I think was the gentleman's name. Politicians listen to voters, and this is what you can do. The site is totally inappropriate, in my opinion. We had documentation that 50% of the land at Stevenson Park is a flood-prone area. If they develop that, where do you think the drainage is going to come? It's going to come to Shady Oaks. Also, I was at the September 17th meeting, and I brought up the fact that I felt it was a true safety hazard because it was a one-lane bridge. The mayor was very dismissive and told me that that was an old sign, which it is not. It's a new sign, and my husband and I measured the bridge, 16.5 usable feet of space. The national standard for a fire truck is 20 feet. The deputy fire marshal was arguing with me that they could get equipment into there. It's very scary when you go to the meetings and your concerns are dismissed like that. I'm not speaking as a craggy old lady who lives in the, age-restricted community. I am a nurse. I'm very concerned about safety. I'm concerned about drainage. I'm on the board of trustees here. We have serious drainage issues. Each and every person here must take 5 minutes and email the freeholders, email Paul Fleets, tell them it's a totally inappropriate site. The mayor asked about suggestions. I did some research on my own. Our township has 32 parks. Of that, I think there are 30 tennis courts. I don't know about you, but I think tennis is a dying sport, and perhaps they could repurpose the tennis courts to be soccer fields. I don't think that that is an appropriate site, but you must do something. If you don't do something, it will be approved. So take
very few minutes that it would take to voice your displeasure and let your elected official know that it's inappropriate.
Let's have this lady right here, and then I'll respond. And I was there at that meeting, as you know, and I heard what she said, and the audience clapped for you. That was a very thing to say.
She was excellent at that meeting also. But I noticed something at that meeting, and I think most of you did too. The person that was really adamant about the fields in the park was Mark Pincante, the township administrator, who was the one who designed that and presented it to the township committee for a vote. He's the one whose concept this is. He was the one who, whenever anybody had a question, answered it from down below. And I was wondering if anyone had followed through with him, because as far as I was concerned, he was the one behind this. The other point I have is, we all took to talk about the animals and the roads and how it's affecting us. But when I look at West Front Street, and I'm only living in this area for 3 years, I notice it doesn't have any aprons. It's really a narrow country lane. What happens if they build these fields? And the kids want to go to the fields, and they ride over there on their bicycles. I would be very upset, but not only upset, devastating, if we lost a kid on a bicycle on that road. You're talking about the human factor here. I have no idea who asked that question.
Okay. You pull out of Shady Oaks, you make a left turn to go to the Red Bank. You know the hedge that is a problem. Okay. I talked to that gentleman just about 10 days ago, and he was not aware that there was any kind of effort to stop the park. He was actually talking about, oh, she sells house now, or wait another year. He told me, well, I don't know who they are, is it the town or is it the county? They have a 9-foot easement on Front Street. So there can be a bike lane and an apron there. They can put in a turn lane in there. It's still going to be a big traffic problem, but it's there. 9-foot easement allows them to do a lot.
One more, just a second. We're going to get to a call to action, the last thing here. That's what, Pat, you were referring to. But there are things you can still do. I'll get you in a second. Okay? We have put out places where you can actually send emails, you can send letters. Right now we're focusing on the freeholders because we think that's a point at which the local town committee is going to run into some, maybe a little bit of resistance there. But the main thing is the township committee. On Monday of this coming week, there's a township committee meeting, and we are really desperate to have everybody there we can put in here.
What time?
I think it's 7 o'clock. What time is it? It's 8 o'clock. Get there early if you want to see, because we're going to put everything we can into it.
Where?
Town Hall. I believe it's the courthouse part, right? Is that what they call it? The courthouse. If you come, we'll find you and bring you in. We're going to be there. But the way it's vital that we keep the pressure on. The township committee is feeling the heat. That's why they're beginning to float all these other things they have never said before. Like, oh, yeah, possibly other solutions here. They're just distractions at this point. All they're trying to do is say, well, maybe we could peel a few of these people who are angry off and make them feel good enough that they won't go vote or they won't do whatever, and they won't support this anymore. That's, don't be fooled. It's just not true. Somebody else. Repeat the date. Monday, this coming Monday, which is, what is it? 15th. The 15th. Take it back to Sylvia.
My name is Leo Christopher. I attended a lot of meetings in the last 10 years, and I had a lot of recall in the past. I'd like to trot some of it through you. Some of you may have heard me speak before about this, some of you probably haven't. And for those of you who haven't heard me, you'll hear me for the first time, and the others that have heard me, you can test your sense of recall. But the township government about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, shared services with the Board of Ed, and they built a hard surface soccer field adjacent to Thompson Middle School. I think the local government paid probably $1 million, and the Board of Ed paid $200,000, something like that. You got the idea if the numbers aren't correct. Secondly, across from the Bayshore / Forward Old Athletic, I think it's called, there is across from the Leonardville Road, there is and the Bayshore School. Across the street is where the Bayshore Old Athletic, whatever it is. That was cited as a potential site that they could build a number of soccer fields. I don't think it could hold 9, maybe Matthew can address that. Thirdly, at Croydon Hall, they have built, I haven't seen the whole thing, haven't walked the whole thing, but I go square dancing on Friday nights. I see the lights on when I leave, even as late as 10 o'clock. Maybe Matthew can tell you how high those towers are with the floodlights. My estimate anywhere, I want to exaggerate from my side of the issue, 70 to 100 feet. They look like floodlights, and there's two, it's multi-purpose. It could be lacrosse, it could be field hockey, it could be soccer, it could be football. So there's a and a hard surface. The township went into that. They know there's a site available at Orchard Street off of 520. The third field at Fairview Soccer Complex it has the name Monmouth Soccer Club, I think. They put a fifth field. When people say there's only 4 fields at Fairview, there's 5. They put a fifth one, and they numbered it on the infield and the outfield of the baseball field that's up there now. If you want to drive up and see it.
Leo, I have to interrupt you because we have to get off the You can pick that up later if this opportunity presents itself, okay? Thank you very much. We have another comment here? Yeah. Bring up the
Thank you. A few days ago, I spoke to somebody who lives at Shadow Lake about Stevenson Park, and she said she hadn't heard anything about it. So apparently this is not a widespread issue yet.
Thank you. We are concerned about the fact that we're not hearing as much from Shadow Lake as we should. Their president was here with us on the last meeting we held on Wednesday night. And we'll try to get in touch with her. We do have other people. There's a realtor there that I think is interested in this as well. Keep in mind that our property values will plummet if that thing is built. And we know that, and so do the realtors in town. And we want to go back to the issue of what can you do? Because it's action that's going to make the difference. And as Pat pointed out, being at those meetings is a critical thing. Even if you just sit there and listen to them, the fact that you're present, that you're there, is meaningful to them. They do react when they see a crowd. It worries them. Why are these people here? Should I have worn my bulletproof vest? I mean, that's not good. We don't know. But the point is, these people are reactive politically. And we know that, and that's why we put as much pressure on them up to as we can. We're doing pretty well with it. We know they're worried. So the next step, we do have documents we could put here. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask Peggy if she'll have copies made for you. We have action plans we can put out. One thing I would mention to you right now, the Lincroft Village Green Association is having a meeting candidates night. You can write that, if you have something to write on, if not, you can come, I'll leave it over here and you can look at it. Tuesday, October 23rd, in the Lincroft Elementary School all-purpose room, 7 to 9. And they're going to have candidates from both parties. Democrats attending are Tricia McGuire, Danielle Walsh, and Sean Burns. Republicans attending are Tony Perry, Rick Havel, and Patricia Snell. So you'll be able, sorry?
Could you repeat the beginning?
Absolutely.
October 23rd.
It's October 23rd.
And where is it?
It's at Lincroft Elementary School all-purpose room. I'm going to leave this over here, but you can always copy it over. It starts at 7 and goes till 9. And I think they're going to have a crowd because I know a lot of people here who want to go. The Lincroft people are obviously going to be there. And it's worth going. And at that point, you can directly ask the candidates, well, why do you want to build this? Or the other people who don't want to build it, why don't you want to build this? You can ask them directly. So, I don't have the address of the school here, but I'll tell you what we can do. What is it?
Newman Springs Road.
Newman Springs Road, okay. It's the Lincroft Elementary School. I think I passed that.
Across from St. Leo's and down a little bit.
It's across from St. Leo's, she's headed down a little bit.
Further west.
I forgot to mention something. After the September 17th meeting, which we all went to,
Yes.
I called up the freeholder I knew, and I told him what was happening. And he said, okay, I'll check it out. We're not the only ones that are being lied to. He was told there weren't that many people at the meeting on the 17th. He said, no, they said there weren't that many people there.
Right. It was crowded.
It was, and I said, look, the only people that were not us were the two, they promoted 2 officers and their families were there.
That's right.
And then they left. The rest of the room was filled and it was all us.
Yeah.
He was told that there were no...
Council, look at the videotape.
Here's,
In other words, so they're not being told the truth either.
They're not acknowledging.
One of the things people have to realize is conceptual plan becomes reality very quickly if there are challenges. So you guys have to strike now. You have to speak to whoever you can. And you have to make it known that there's going to be a short window to back this thing down. Once it gets momentum, the grant becomes approved, other things happen, it will just gain its own momentum and move forward. Regarding attendance at the meetings, if you do get up and speak during the public part, just a few notes, because I'd rather you not waste time on certain facts that they're just going to beat you down about. Feel free to be emotional. Feel free to talk about quality of life, safety, traffic, things like that. Stay away from questions regarding the potable well that's going to be out there. They talked about a second well that's going to be sunk for irrigation. It will not affect Shadow Lake. It's, when you're talking about well water of that type, it's very deep, it's in a different aquifer. So save yourself the trouble of getting up. They'll only use it to just show how people are being misinformed. So don't fall into traps like that. Stay with things that are factual and or relative to your quality of life. Another point, which I was going to bring up before, is they've stated that this will be a dawn to dusk facility. But again, that's conceptual. They've made no guarantees that down the road there won't be a PA system, there won't be lighting. So it's, the concept can easily evolve once they get a foothold in there. I'm not aware of anywhere else in town where they can do 9 fields at once right now. So the goal is spread them out. Remember, the point that they've constantly put forward is they want to rest fields. We need to rest fields. We need to be able to maintain things more easily. They can easily add 1 or 2 fields to other facilities to give them the ability to rest fields. They can also change fields over to artificial turf. Some of the sports they're talking about prefer artificial turf. I am a consultant for environmental and engineering work. I work with municipalities, I work with developers both ends. I understand these projects. I've been a part of a number of them. I'm in a big one right now. So I understand what they're trying to push forward. The only thing is there are other options. They need to explore those first and prove to the people that they've actually looked at it, and they have nowhere else to go. So they should table it, leave it to the side for now, work with the Board of Ed, work with whoever they can to get other options on the table. But when you are speaking during the public comment, you know, as much as you can, stick to what's factual, or stick to what immediately concerns you. Because those are the things they can't turn around on. That's one of the major things they love to do at all town committee meetings, regardless of the municipality. They love to be able to just take somebody and turn their facts around on. So stick to what we know, stick to what directly affects you, safety, quality of life, traffic, and you'll give them nowhere to go, and you have a much more powerful argument as a group to put forward. So.
This lady here. With regards to the question brought up a minute ago about getting the truth out about what goes on in these meetings and the amount of people that attend or not attend, where does that, that's when the news comes in.
Yes.
Channel 12 or whatever channel we can bring in, and the newspaper.
The newspaper, I think,
when is that happening?
Well, we're working on that. I haven't heard back yet from the place. I spoke with them a couple days ago, so I was hoping I'd hear by now. But people are busy. The thing is, I don't believe News 12 can go into the township meetings, but they can go. And we haven't said we vote them in here, but we don't know. There is a meeting here on Tuesday. I think it's 2:30. It's the board meeting. It is closed to everyone except Shady Oaks residents. And we have a thing here that I'm going to ask Peggy to talk about, because they're going to be here essentially to try to tell you that don't worry about the thing, everything's fine. Well, no, they're coming here so you can grill them. And we're hoping you will. So Peggy, you want to talk about that?
Right. Excuse me. Bob, go ahead, Peggy. I'll speak after you. On Tuesday, the mayor, Mr. McConty, the Director of Public Works, the project director for this will be here at 2:30 for our meeting. And what I'm going to ask you all to do, Shady Oaks residents, is please write your questions, put them in an envelope, and then put them in the mailbox here at the clubhouse by noontime on Tuesday. And we will present the questions and then to the mayor and the committee. And then if we need further information from an individual, we'll fall upon those individuals. Thank you.
We have these documents that we're going to...
Oh, and please put your name and address on the question. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. We have some messages that have gone out to people from Mary Ann Cleveland, who has really been terrific. She's a resident of Harbor Green, and she has been terrific as far as helping us get together, getting the names of people who are involved together, getting the emails so we can send out notices and so forth. There are a couple of these things that were sent out. I have copies here, and Peggy, could we make some extra copies and maybe put them? If you want a copy of this, come back on Monday. I'm throwing up here Sunday, so Monday, come back on Monday, and they'll be pick them up. And we recommend you do a lot of letter writing. If you like writing letters, write those letters. We tell you where to send them. If you have email capability, that's the best and quickest way to get to them. They have to keep a record of those things. If you email somebody, that's a public record on their side. I'm sorry, you had a...
Yes, if we do emails, letters, telephones, whatever, I would stress the fact that West Front Street is a direct route to Riverview Hospital. It's an adult community. You can imagine how many times a week, a month, we have an ambulance in here.
Yeah.
The other thing is, last time when the group of us went to the meeting in Middletown, we sort of carpooled. Everybody does not know exactly where this is located, and limited parking area. And I have one more, I don't know about this, if they're going to have a food concession stand over there, are we now going to have a bathroom facility?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we will.
Even before the food stand, just the
You're
days for the
absolutely
game.
right. Yeah, but, you know, well, they have their locations, you know, public way of-
I would just like to have the opportunity to make you, the residents here, more appreciative of this pristine property that is adjacent to us. I was brought up, my father was an outdoorsman, he hunted and fished, and he taught me how to appreciate nature, the flora and the fauna, how to walk through the woods and to see things. I don't think many of you had that opportunity to walk through this pristine place over there. The foliage, the trees, the shoreline of Shady Oaks. There are paths that you can walk there, and if you are very quiet, you will run along the shores. There are great white heron, great blue heron, stalking along looking for food. If you look above the sky at times, you see these ospreys hovering around looking for an opportunity to come down and get there. If you look out, you'll see these wonderful swans swimming around. You'll see geese, which I don't like, but you'll see ducks. You'll see ducks and wandering about. It's a beautiful place. And the things like, I have grandchildren that when they come, I'd like to continue to bring them there to expose them to nature, to understand. You walk through the trees, you might see a hawk who's, you know, sitting up there looking for water rat or whatever is food. You'll see deer. Everybody must be aware of the deer. And because my father taught me, you walk into the wind and you get a post and you see, you can find a place where the deer, and you stand there for half an hour, you might spot. Well, the thing is, like, sometimes I've gone over there and I haven't spotted anything. Come back in my backyard. Here they are walking right in my backyard. I paid $2,000 more when I came here in '83. I've been here for 35 years. I paid $2,000 more for the property because we were adjacent to Green Acres. And for all those years, in other words, I appreciate the fact I had the serenity. And I hate, like hell, to lose the serenity. So if you ever have an opportunity with your grandchildren, take them in, walk the paths there. You can walk. It's beautiful.
Over here.
Hi, I'm the lone shadow of attending here. I live at Dominic Drive, right at the street here. So, first of all, I want to thank you for all of this. I'm just getting educated this week, and I am sharing it with everyone in my neighborhood. We have a Facebook page, and everyone's upset, and for all the reasons you talked about. I lived here 12 years, and I love this location because of all the reasons you just cited. I look back at Green Acres, I look at nature. It's really, I think it's Animal Kingdom some days, but it's truly beautiful. And we hate to lose that, and all the safety reasons and everything. So Jim Andrews lives next door to me, the lawyer who's working with you, so I'm getting educated as quickly as I can. My question to you is, and maybe you can address this in your call of action, is he said that, or Kate, his wife, said that we can write to municipal grants to talk about the negativity of this, because as they evaluate grants, the negativity puts things at a lower factor. I'm learning, so I'm getting educated by all of you and them.
Yes.
And I want to take it back. So I wanted to see if that was true, and if that's something that we can all do when we go home. We can write to the municipal grants and start that.
I'll give you the name right now, but I'm going to leave this on the table because I have access to other copies. Municipal.grants@monmouthcountyparks.com. Municipal.grants@monmouthcountyparks.com. That's the municipal open space program.
And I just want to mention, you know, the grant, 2 phases to the grant. The emails that you're going to send are all well and good. They will go to the review committee for consideration. But first and foremost, you should demand withdrawal of the application. Don't let it get to the review committee. Don't let it get to the freeholders. If you attend the meeting the 15th and meet the candidates on the 23rd, demand that they pull back the application. Don't let it get any further. Once it does and it's in their hands, regardless of how many letters go in, you don't know what's going to happen. So there's a step before that everybody can take action on. Demand that that application comes off the table. Don't let it go to somebody else to make that decision. And don't let the town committee that they can withdraw the application. There's nothing that says they can't call and say, we're not interested this year, we're just going to pull it off.
Would you repeat that address there?
Yes, I'll be happy to. It's municipal.grants@monmouthcountyparks.com. Now, I will tell you that we've already made that request at the freeholders meeting, but they denied that grant request. And we are also going to ask the same thing. I said this to Mr. Sharpenter, I think I said it earlier. When we met with the freeholders, I said to them, when he told us, well, if we think it's solved, the Board of Education is going to finally get off its behind and give us some space, which is totally untrue because the Board of Education has been trying forever to get them to help. Then he said, okay, well, they're going to try to do this. They're very creative, they'll come up with a solution. And I said to him, okay, fine. We'll accept a solution. As I said earlier, we'll accept a solution as long as we can see the documentation that they really need it, and there's no wiggle them out of it. Which means they drop the request for the grant, they amend the deed to show that it'll always be passive use, and they show us their memorandum of agreement with the Board of Education that says this is what we're going to build, this is where we're going to build, this is what's going to cost, all the details will be in it. When we see that signed and we know it's done, we can start to relax. But until that time, there is nothing that we can do but keep after them. And I know that's an effort for everybody. At this stage of my life, I was kind of hoping I could just continue doing some things I want to do. I didn't even, I've been so busy with other things this year. My sister passed away in July, and I've been working on her estate ever since. I never got a chance to take my boat out on the river this summer. I've ruined my summer. But I think this is an exciting time for us. It certainly has energized me. And I hope a lot of you feel that this is worth pursuing and working on and getting done. Because if there's anything else they can do to hurt this community, it would be to build that atrocity. And you said 100 feet. I think it says 65 feet.
It does, but in the meetings, and this is how they will represent it moving forward, they state 100. If you watch the videos, they're clear about that. They wrote it one way, but then they knew that wasn't going to be enough, so they tried to say, well, it's 100 feet. And present it as much more, but it's not.
They were discussing this border, this barrier we would have, so we won't hear anything because there's going to be a tree there. Yeah, right. Okay.
I'll bring that back in a second. I wanted to add something so you know. Matt mentioned something about the field starting off from dawn to dusk. Okay, I've coached in Middletown over 40 years. I'm now watching my son coach. And just want to explain something to you. Someone asked a good question before. They said, well, who's going to make money? How are they going to make money? The fields start off as a field. Okay? Then what happens is they start having tournaments. Once you start hosting tournaments, that opens up to everybody in New Jersey. Anybody from Parsippany all the way down to Alpha can enter the tournament, and all they have to do is do fundraisers. And you see all your kids outside with the cans and raising money, and grandma, could you give me $10 for my... Well, all that money they pull, the first in is the first to get in. So you say, we raised our $1,000 we want in the tournament. This is how they make money. Once they start accumulating the money, then they build a concession stand. Oh, we've got to feed these people. Once the concession stand comes in, they build the lights. Once the lights go in, they have tournaments all year long. So now it doesn't become a 3-month or a 2-month sport. It becomes fall, summer, spring, and if that happens, it's a complete disaster.
Just a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry.
speak loudly. Go ahead, sir.
I was at the September 17th meeting, and the one thing that bothered me, and I think his name is Mr. Fieri, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. He said this was silly season. Okay, that was one of the comments that really irked me. Politicians don't like silly season. And he probably thinks that most of us are pretty stupid because we don't go out to vote. I know who I'm voting for. I don't know if you know who you're voting for, but the point is, there's a committee, there's a group here who are in favor of this park, and a group that are not. Don't be dumb. Vote for the ones that are not in favor of it, because that's your most immediate road to getting this thing defeated. My question to you is, if the opposition party gets in, can they rescind the grant, do away with the grant? I do not know the process. I beg ignorance on that.
You have to remember, the grant will be decided on before January. So certain individuals will still be in. If the current slate is still in office before the election, and they process the grant prior, there's no saying it won't be processed ahead of time. That's why I say the best opportunity is to withdraw the application. Don't let it get any further than it already is. Once it gets legs, you know, it becomes a little bit tougher.
The other answer to that is that if in fact the opposing group is elected, that makes the voting there 2-3. Because the three people now who are for it, Perry, Abell, and Snell, they're all appointed people. They were never elected to that point. So now they're running to be elected. The others who are running against them, McGuire, Walsh, and Burns, they're dedicated to not doing this. They think, and they also believe, from what I've talked to them about, they want to have greater participation. What Matt was saying earlier, they would like to have the community more involved with decisions like this. This was literally slipped in without any notice whatsoever. The opposing group here is very much in favor of working the way the democracy is supposed to work. And that's my own opinion. And that was your opinion as well. We're not espousing anybody in particular, but you can probably read between the lines.
This lady next. Just a quick question. We need more bodies at these meetings, and there are people like me who don't drive at night, and I'd like to know if anybody would make a little list or write down names of who would offer to.
We'll put a list together. We'll have that. We're going to have other things on the table over here when the bake sale is over, and I hope people will buy some of those things. I got there early. I got my banana for it. So, the fact is that there'll be information there for you, and I think we can probably add that to it.
How we can get rides to at night? I don't know. No, we said that doesn't work. Okay.
That's all right. There are enough people who will share their cars.
Thank you. This lady.
Hi. I'm wondering if there's a way of organizing things for us a little bit better. I went around to put flyers indoors that Florence had given me. I found that there were several areas that were near me that hadn't gotten them, so I personally made my own copies and gave them to neighbors. But I found myself not knowing all of the dates of different things that we should be attending. Number two, I went on our website. I found very little information with dates, things that I should be doing. If it weren't for the flyers that Florence had given me, I wouldn't have been able to send out some of these emails and send out some of the letters. I also have a question. When we're sending out these bulk letters to the freeholders, can they go in one envelope? Should they be addressed separately to each separate person? How should they be getting there? Because I did attempt to email, and I wasn't able to email. So I then printed out a letter. Thank you.
I'm not sure of the answer to more than one in an envelope. I don't know about putting more than one letter in an envelope. I'll let look into it. I do know that I was involved in a group that was doing vote by mail, and that was all single. We had to have every envelope to a single person, so I kind of suspect that will be the answer, but we'll have to look into that. And apropos of what you said, a horrendous issue for us here in the community, we have the oak leaves that we passed around, and I have heard from the people who are doing that, who volunteer for it, that they don't have enough people to actually do it. So if in fact you haven't been getting an oak leaf because nobody has put it in your doorway, and you just want, all we would want is somebody from every single building would have just one person to do it, and maybe a backup if that person's not available. And then, to your point, we have desperately tried to get information out and have found that to be a problem as well. We tried to do it. Marianne Clayton has put together a terrific number of email addresses, and we've been working with that, but we would love it if you would tell us that you would pick things up here. I think from now on the answer is we're going to have to probably have some extras here in the building, carefully put aside for you to pick up. And I would recommend that you stop in here every couple of days, if you have the time, and see if there's anything there, see if there's any news posted. And we really need to do that.
Can't we use our website?
We haven't done that before, but we will.
Well, our website is hard to find, because I Googled it without having condo at the end, and never even found anything remotely what I was looking for. Can we put in our oak leaves, our website every month, put it on the cover, somewhere that's easy to find, because oakleaves.com or at AOL is not the site that we want people going to.
Okay, right. I know that's what the bill comes in.
Thank you.
All right, that's good. That's a good point. Anybody else have
This lady back here.
We'll take a couple more. We'll probably want to go.
I mean, you talk very laughingly about the 65-foot barriers, 100-foot barrier. Any one of you who don't think that's going to be a problem, drive to the end of Firestone. 100-foot barrier? No, we have the trees, we have a road, we have trees, we have the railroad tracks, and every time the athletic fields at the school have any kind of activity, whether it's after school, on the weekend, or way into 10 o'clock or later at night, you hear the band, you hear the kids, you hear the sports team, and that's a heck of a lot more than 100 feet. So don't think that 100 feet is going to give you any kind of barrier against these soccer fields.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I hear that, and I'm not close to that. I'm hearing it as well.
I was asking if you could have a website that everybody could find on there, so we know what's the latest and what you need us to do.
Well, we have that through our association. And I think that's going to be the same. What we need to do is make sure everybody knows where it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I haven't personally used it, and it just dawns on me now that we can be doing it. But we have been trying to push out as much information as possible.
All right, can you do that? The other question I had was, considering that this is such a major complex with 9 fields, I mean, aren't the police and the other people concerned about safety, like the other lady over there said, this is the road to Riverview Hospital. This is a tiny little crummy, 1 lane each way, curvy road. You're going to have all sorts of cars on here, all sorts of kids. If somebody gets hurt at that stupid field, how's an ambulance going to even go in there to get their wonderful children? You know, that they're so worried. Well, if they're so worried, they shouldn't be putting it over here because it's a safety issue. Is there some city, state, or, you know, town thing that would investigate the situation on the road? This road can't handle that. That's the first thing we should be saying, is that the road can't handle it, it's not safe for the community, and it's not safe for those people over there that they want to put in there. So this whole thing is outrageous because it's going to be a safety issue.
Attend the county meeting, attend the candidates meeting.
Again, attend the town committee meeting, attend the candidates meeting, express your concerns there. That's the root of it all.
And the more people I hear it from, the better. One person complains 10 times, it's nothing. 10 people complain 10 times, you get a movement going. So it has to be multiple people.
That should be the issue they're hitting on, because that'll be the main thing.
There's
Shake them
multiple,
up.
that's just one. There's many, and
No,
you
but
need to hit them
if you
all.
start telling the media that kids are gonna get killed and they won't be able to go to a hospital, you know, because the ambulance can't get through them, then they'll get all shaken up and you'll get some coverage.
I agree with that. In fact, we have said that before. That message has been delivered to the township committee any number of times. In fact, the lady who just left will probably tell you. Anybody else who was here at that meeting?
We were here.
You recall the safety issue came up time and time again?
Yes. I don't know one issue that we have brought up that wasn't brought up multiple times there.
Absolutely.
And I was appalled by the lack of professionalism of those board members, the way our people were dismissed. They were made to feel less of a citizen, the way they treated Pat Foley. I was appalled, and I stayed after, and I spoke to Pat Snell, and I told her, any committee person up there is a volunteer. I appreciate that. But when you have assumed that position, there's a certain amount of animosity, hostility that you have to be prepared to take. You have to put yourself above that. You have to accept that because people are passionate. And this happens to be a topic that my husband and I are very passionate about. My mother was an original homesteader here, and there is no way I want to see this area destroyed because it will destroy us all.
For the benefit of a few, we are losing everything.
Yes, everything.
Well, not even the benefit of a few children in town, it's these leagues who come from out of town to play soccer here. Somebody in the back of there has something they want to say.
Thank you. I just came from a couple of meetings in Shadow Lake Village, and we talked about it, and we ordered. Just came from Shadow Lake Village where we had a discussion about that. About 30 or 40 people spoke up, including some engineers, land use people, and lawyers. And we wondered a couple of questions because we object to it strenuously. The people who were at that meeting, and we're going to go to the next meeting on Monday. We'd like to find out more about it, including noise bothers us, water bothers us, the dirt and the fertilizer and all that stuff bothers us. Were there any restrictions on the Stevenson tract? I did Google the open public records of the county clerk to find out history of the property back to 1989, but I have to go to a title company to find out about were the restrictions in the tract that would limit it to private use or this type of soccer field. Secondly, if it becomes soccer fields, does that mean they don't pay taxes? The assessment, I think, is $8 million right now. Would they not pay real estate taxes on it? And it definitely wouldn't impact noise because at Shadow Lake Village, we hear the rush hour traffic on the parkway.
Yeah. I'm not so sure about the tax part of it. I do know that when it was deeded over to the town, I think there's something called a farm credit or something you mentioned yesterday, which may have reduced the taxes on the property. That would have reduced the taxes on the property. But yes, there are deed restrictions. I think we spoke about that earlier. The big thing is that they're not supposed to be using it for organized sports. But of course, there's a way around that. So, okay, but the next big thing, and I think the last thing we want to talk about is just we ought to get out there and do things. We need your help. It can't just be those of us who've worked on this committee. And I'm telling you, we've got some pretty great people. I've got some wonderful people here. I haven't met a lot of people in this community since I've lived here because I've been so busy doing my own thing. But I keep running into people who are just terrific to work with and talk to. These documents that we already have prepared will be on the table. I'll put them over there. So before you leave, don't take them with you, but copy off whatever you need. We'll find paper if you need it. Yeah, one more.
People can actually take pictures on their phones.
Oh, that's true.
This way,
If you carry a phone around, there's one.
Yeah, John, excuse me, raised her hand first. Sorry.
I just wondered if the people across from Stevenson Park and the developments, are they aware of what's going on?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
They're part of the coalition. They're part of the coalition. Yeah. This gentleman.
One last thing, have you noticed the fight that has stopped because it was brought to its knees by the people who put the signs up about the power lines?
Right.
Why don't we have signs? Where did they put the signs? You could get people to put the signs up who would be active. Right, you have to put them in paper. They would allow you to do it. My daughter lives in River Plaza, and she's got kids, but she'd be quite willing to put something on her lawn because she sees how happy her parents are here. And she knows she doesn't want them moving back to her.
I live in Shady Oaks, and I had a specific comment to go with the gentleman who just spoke. One of my neighbors didn't seem too interested in joining me in this fight, and she said fighting the power lines took $300,000. So that's what they, took out of their own pocket to fight that. So potentially it could cost us a lot of money. But anyway, so that's the answer to that.
I did look into the cost of signs. I went to an outlet here at locally and asked about it. And I said, well, what can we get? What will it cost? It's pricey. It mounts up. The thing is, as I said earlier, when we get to the end of our ability, let's say, to effect a change here without having to go to litigation, when we get to litigation, then we are going to have money, which would mean an assessment here. I'm sure Shadow Lake would have an assessment as well. Probably anybody in the community here who will be impacted, and there's so many impacted. As this lady said earlier, you asked about surrounding areas here or something. Somebody asked over here about that. They're all into this. They're all. They were open to come to this meeting today. Obviously, a lot of people are out shopping or doing whatever they're doing, but they were invited to come. I'm glad you came from up there. It's Shadow Brook.
Shadow Brook, yeah. The Hewlin Road community.
We have been very grateful to Jim Andrews, who has been working with us on this project, and he made it very clear to us what the impact would be if they have to pierce the end of this property and go out to Donnelly Drive, and all that traffic. The numbers I gave you earlier, 2,160 cars on a daily basis going through our either here or there or both. It's going to be it's going to, like you said, it will destroy this community.
And don't let this get to litigation. I don't want to. If you're out in enough force, you can beat this back without getting to that step. I hate to see you guys have to retain attorneys, experts to fight this down the road. That's why now is the most important time to fight it. Do it with just sheer will and numbers against what's going on. It happens all the time. Rage was a different battle. You were up against some major utility company. That's why that effort took so long and was so expensive. This is a town committee. You guys have votes and a lot of say with what goes on. You can readily affect how your quality of life is. It's not a national level thing. You have people right in front of you that you can immediately impact. You just have to get out there and do it. That's the difference. You can't assume that somebody else is going to take the lead because they're assuming the same thing you, and everybody just winds up sitting around and nobody does it. So if you're worried about it, get the word out and show up. It's going to take personal time. It's unfortunate, but that's the end result if you don't. It's a long-term thing. So So put in short-term effort to avoid, something that's going to majorly impact.
I want to thank everyone for coming. We really appreciate the fact that you are as concerned as we are. Thank you. I'll let you have the final say.
Again, I'd like to thank all of Shady Oaks and our colleagues at Shadow Lake and Shadow Brook. However, there's one other thing. When I was sitting at the traffic light at the railroad stop here, I took down the number, and I'm sure that the Township of Middletown has not informed the federal government that this is going in, and there will be access on that Navy Road, and people will take shortcuts. And I feel very strongly our federal taxes in action, I will notify them Monday on our behalf, and all of us. So please, and again, thank you. Shady Oaks strong.
Oh,